So they knew right where to go.
Yeah.
Do should just park on the driveway. Right. Yeah. I'm like, I go.
All right, well, now it's 10, so we can go ahead and get started. I, of course, have the tracker up. Has everyone found the tracker? Has everyone figured out how to use the tracker? I know you do have to search for it. I know some days I have to search for it, even though I type in daily 104. Sometimes it's my KW that comes up, so you can search in the search bar. But yeah, this is, of course, good to keep working on, keep doing it. Remember, if you're in coaching, to make sure that you're updating that scorecard every week. And that's through Google Drive. If you don't know where it is, just go ahead and ask me. We can go ahead and get started. So I guess I'll go ahead and introduce our teacher today, Mr. Guy Callaway. He's doing Find and Show Homes.
Yes. Yep. I'll take this one.
Yeah. And then, like I said, you can
Do whatever. Yeah, whatever. If they need to do it.
I'll have it upstairs. So if you
That I'm doing it right. Yep. You better make sure I'm not saying anything I'm not supposed to. All right. Well, welcome to Find and Show Homes. I kind of got to know the people here in the classroom, or most of them, and so I'll share a little bit about myself. We talked a little bit there. I'm Guy Callaway. I've been in the business little over 5 years. I started with, and Rick Gardner and I are partners, or we have a team. He'll tell everyone he works for me at this point. So he is been in the business over 35 years, and actually is one of the original investors with KW here in Springfield. So, and we've got an office offsite in Ozark, Missouri, just out close to downtown Ozark. Got a little office there. Rick had recruited me for 5 years just to share our story. We tracked it from when I made the commitment to get into real estate. He was talking to me for 5 years, and he is a great, all about building his downline and that. So we talked. I was very confident and comfortable in the job I had, and I was like, man, I kind of want a guaranteed income. I mean, that's kind of a big deal, and boy, I like my family. Even when, as we talked, the police get called on them, they're fine. But I like them, and I like to have dinner with them. I like to tuck my kids in. I don't want to go show a house at 7 o'clock at night. That does not sound like fun. So that's just where my mindset was, and we continued the conversation for some time. I left the job that I had. Took another job I worked for Subway's development office for 8.5 years, working with franchisees, building their business. And then I left to take a job with a local company that I thought I could further my career because I'd kind of maxed myself out. Realized the first month in it was a bad culture fit, and I started talking to Rick again, and I got to the point where I was traveling 3 weeks a month. So that whole I liked my family, remember that? I was sitting I'd leave Monday morning, I'd come home Friday night, and that was not fun. I got to do some cool things. I got to travel on a corporate jet and do some different things, but I was like, this is not what I want to do. And so it really changed my perspective, and that's been a big part of my real estate career as I developed. As far as real estate's concerned, Rick had a team, and we joined with Jason Massengale with Heartland Realty team, and then the Massengale Group, and I was their lead buyer's agent for some time, and then left to go out on my own in 2018, and that's when Rick and I kind of reformulated, and he's like, I've got a little left in my tank to try and rebuild something and establish it, because he's always had an office in Ozark, so that's where we're at, and it's been pretty fun ever since then. So we've got the Callaway Gardner team in Ozark. That's why if you don't recognize me, you haven't seen me around a lot, I'm kind of we're not in the office a lot, but try and be part of it. I am part of our ALC for 2021. So you guys all need to make sure to come to the affairs at February 9th, where we'll talk about it. You can see me and get the opportunity to hang out with me at least once a month, and be part of that. I'm on the tech committee. So anyways, I'll give that plug on there. So our class today is on find and show homes, and I got a little tangent I wanna talk about. Just met with Tim yesterday talking about tech, and I'm gonna share that and part of the passion and big picture. And then had the this morning as I was preparing, listening to a podcast talking about Zillow, and that's where a lot of your buyers are going to find homes, or they're all looking at it. And there's a lot of things going on with Zillow, so want to challenge you. I was looking at, oh, it's not up anymore. The the numbers, like as far as building your database, getting people into your database, and utilizing some of your technology will follow up. The more control you have on that data, and the more you're utilizing what we've got, is going to be powerful. And we talked some yesterday, just talking about. Has anyone seen The Social Dilemma? Crazy, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Started flipping through. So it's to me, when I watched it, I had been looking at a lot of what's going on from what we can do business wise, and it's real, and that's where kind of Zillow is. Kind of look at what Zillow's got going on. If you haven't seen it, or you take a moment, go back and look at it from a real estate perspective, and maybe how Zillow's pulling in that data and doing some of those things. Just interesting. So we'll and the committee fair is February 9th, right after team meeting. I just got a note to make sure Nicole's got my back, so she's awesome. So we'll talk about that, develop some showing skills, and talk about some script practice on that. So I know she did your reporting. How are you guys doing with the 10-4? I mean, I just want to ask the question, kind of how are we doing? Because to me, that's one of the most powerful parts of Ignite, and getting in and doing those daily activities and kind of setting that up. How is that going? Not well? Okay. Hey, that's all right. You know what? Oh, go ahead. Honesty, yeah. So some saying not well. Anyone having success with it? Back there? Okay. Got some up here in the front too. So you know what my favorite thing is about the daily 10-4 is that it restarts every day. And so it's okay to fail today. And, because tomorrow I can get up and I've got the intentions to succeed tomorrow. And that's the one thing that I love about setting daily challenges like that and doing those types of things, because I can begin to develop a snowball. And because when I get it and I achieve it, if I achieve it tomorrow, and then I get it the next day, and I can create momentum. And that's part of what it's about. So just challenges just to try and make that a priority. You will benefit from it, and been one of those opportunities. What about, so specifically, part of the 10-4 is previewing homes. How is previewing homes going? Since we're talking about showing homes, I'm gonna, if somebody's got something to say, I'll let you say it. All right, here we go.
It's been going good. It's just hard, I feel like, because they're just going so fast.
Right.
Find some I want to look at, and then they'll go under contract before I can get there.
Okay.
Or go.
That makes sense. Anyone else got questions on that or thoughts on it that's been doing it? One thing I did also, and this is kind of to be able to see and know about it, look at your new construction areas, and those can be an opportunity to preview several homes and kind of know what's going on in a neighborhood. Again, you then have some knowledge to be able to, if someone asks about what's going on, knowing where that new construction's at can be pretty powerful in what they're doing. So that's if you kind of run into that where you can't find homes, and maybe you're looking for a specific thing to look at, but getting in and looking at them, and I have agents that call to especially vacant homes, even when they're under contract, will let me know they're wanting to kind of do it. It can be done. As far as lead generation, there's and I kind of caught that you guys don't do a whole lot here in class. But what has been your most effective form so far of lead generation? Perfect. That's a great one on kind of finding your business, calling people that, that you're back. He's back. Cold calls? Okay. Awesome. Very good. Sometimes they're easier from a Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Very good. So are you on a team then? Evan's team? Evan DeShong? Okay. Nice. Very good. I like Evan a lot. Open houses? Okay. Open houses are good, especially if you can get them before before they go under contract. We had, yeah, they're going quick. So any other thoughts on lead generation? Friends karaoke? Okay. Nice. What'd you sing?
I don't sing. No, I play pool.
But yeah, what did you sing? So go ahead. Right. I love it. Right. Grow your sphere further too. So, but sphere is a big part. So your sphere, absolutely, and it's easy. A lot of times you've got that trust already built up with them. They respect you for whatever you did prior to, and sometimes it's easier to show that value with your sphere. I don't have the exact numbers as I'm looking at what we have under contract. I think it was 60%. We've had kind of what's going on right now. We've had about 60% of our business has been sphere repeat and referral business. So people that we had a relationship with, and it's thrown off by the fact that we have two that, or no, two that kind of did a search and found reviews on us. So, that's where they looked. And then we have two or three that were actually sign calls, which is not, I mean, that's not always been a big part of our business, but it just kind of worked out pretty well with some unique things that we had. So I am going to, I think this is page 9 in your books when it comes to calling referral partners, and that is a big part of my business. So it works, it's great that this is here. And I don't know what scripts you guys have worked on. But that is I don't necessarily use this specific script, but my referral partners are, I've got deep relationships with them. And there are people that we work with and have created those relationships, and we're loyal to each other in a lot of ways from that. And so finding those referral partners and people that you do business with, that's something that if you do business with them personally, it's okay to ask for them to do business with you. That's just that's a huge opportunity, and that's one of the things that I look at, and if I'm doing business with them, I'm hoping that, I'm doing business with them and hoping that we can end up doing business together, is a big opportunity. So we will. I want to read through the script, and I want you guys. We're gonna practice it. But um, you know, hi, business owner. I'm Guy with Keller Williams Realty. I'm in the process of creating a list of preferred business and service providers to give to my clients. Since I frequently have clients that ask me for a good dentist, I only want trusted companies to refer them to. Since I have had excellent service from you, would you and your business be interested in being included? Great. I like to establish these professional referral partnerships to help grow each other's businesses as well. So if I were to refer clients to you, would you be willing to refer clients that are looking to buy or sell a home to me, with the assurance that I will provide them with the high level of customer service that you expect? Excellent. How about we confirm each other's contact information so we can get started? So that's a powerful script that's right to the point and talking about, hey, I'm doing business with you. I like doing business with you, and I want to continue to do business with you, and I want to, I've got people that are asking about that, and that is a when you've got that. I had a you talk about securing referrals from me. I moved and my family changed to a service provider, and it's somebody I had known for a long time. I had just never used them for their profession. And I used to run upward basketball at First Baptist Church, and him and his son would ref for me, and so we've known each other for years. But I chose to go do business with him, and he calls me and he said, hey, since you because I need this as a business owner. I can't, I don't want everyone to know what I'm doing. So as long as we can keep this quiet, but I am looking, for a house, and my wife and I would like to go look at this. And since you do business with me, I'm choosing to do business with you. And to me, that was, now do you think I refer, he had that faith in me. Do you think if anyone asked me for whatever he provides, do you think I refer anyone else at this point? Huh? Let me say that. I may have said that wrong. Do you think I refer anyone else besides him in that industry? No, I've become loyal to him and hoping he's loyal to me, because he was looking for a substantial property, substantially above what, if you were to look at my average sales price. It was a powerful situation. So that is having those conversations with those people that and it could be, this is just a great script from that. And then there's the other one, is one about that you've not personally done business with, which that can still be good too, because maybe you haven't worked with a roofer or whatever it is. You don't know anyone personally, but being able to have those conversations and reach out to them. So I would, and these are also easy phone calls, kind of when looking at contacts. And I don't, some of you guys are real new, so probably haven't been through Bold yet. But that's another great training that really focuses on the creating those referral partners and connecting with them. So utilize that script. That's one that I would put in star to do some script practicing with. Do you guys have some sort of partner in class? Is that right? Okay, just making sure we've got that. So that would that would be a good one to utilize for script practicing and working together. I would, and I'll jump around. I'm kind of a squirrel, ADD. But with that, it's one thing I wanted to talk about, just with your partner, that you've got. That's a great way to do some, as we're talking about finding and showing homes and previewing homes. That's a great person to grab and go preview homes together. One, you can do a little role playing, like as if you were showing the home and kind of being prepared for that. So that is a powerful opportunity for you as well. So on page 11, and I'm going to be bad about getting. welcome. Let me see if I can catch up to. Okay, so I'm on page 11, has the statistics, just kind of where we're at. These are, now I find these statistics interesting if you look in the book. They're from 2014. Do you think much has changed since 2014? If some of these numbers were in 2019, I would expect that they change. This last year, things changed rapidly. You know, that kind of says that, you know, your journey as you go from the buyer consultation up to making an offer with a client is an exciting process, and one that I'll challenge, you know, is one of those fun experiences as you guys get into that process. I enjoy. I enjoy getting to sit with the clients, with the buyers, and kind of discuss what they're looking for, helping them find that. We're going to talk more about that, and then letting them know that I want to work with them, you know, and that I value them and I want to work with them. And so when it comes to that buyer consultation, I know you guys talked. You had Carrie Wars yesterday, so she's an amazing buyer's agent, and on that. I know you guys talked some about probably getting buyer's agencies signed. I always present it to them, and I do let them know that, you know, for me, in the state of Missouri, you know, I take it seriously. If I'm showing a house without a buyer's agency signed, I'm really representing a deal and not you individually. And that's just another way, you know, for me, that's just one thing I express and let them know, you know, just utilizing that. I'm like, I will do it, you know, and I don't sit there and say I'm not going to show you a house without it signed, but I do tell them why it's important and what that commitment's like. So just to kind of share that part. But so the typical buyer has searched for 10 weeks and viewed 10 homes. Sometimes that's by the point they're right. Well, this is, you know, now, and it doesn't say it specifically here. So when I've read that, you know, that's them searching for 10 weeks and viewed 10 homes. That may not be a showing with a real estate agent. This could be thinking before they even meet with you, is kind of one of the overlays that I've put on top of that. You know, not thinking of when they're meeting with me, but so they've been looking for longer than just when they picked up the phone and called you, you know, if that's how it worked, and you knew when they met with you. So they've been looking for some time. 92% of buyers use the internet in their home search process. Think that number's changed since 2014? So everyone's new. I know there's some experienced agents, but as well in the room, how many have talked or worked with a buyer that didn't search online? I've got one right now. They do not have a smartphone. They don't have a computer at home. Actually, right now he can't drive, so that's. So he's older. I don't know his exact age. He was a referral from one of the lenders we use. So, and he's not quite ready to really start looking yet, but end of February is really his timeline. But so just it's odd, because how do you get a house in front of a buyer fast enough to get to show them when they don't have access to the internet? And I've had a couple that didn't really use it, you know, it's always fun when it changes our world, or when they don't. Just since we're talking about, you know, there are few buyers that don't utilize technology. I had one that was a dad of a guy my wife worked with, moving here from West Plains, and they did not e-sign. They didn't do, and we were negotiating a contract. I had to fax stuff to him. I don't have a fax. I don't know when the last time was I had faxed something. And he didn't have a fax either, but we had to fax it to his bank down there and him go pick it up. You talk about old school business, for us, it just not something we normally do. So there are buyers out there and knowing, realizing that, because our technology is amazing, but you will come across a few, and that's where, that again, 50% of buyers use a mobile website or application in their home search. I think that's changed since 2014. Absolutely, that's higher, and that's one of those things. Who's good in here at sharing their app? Utilizing their KW app and utilizing that technology. Has anyone use that at a high level? Use it some little bit. It is a huge opportunity that you have to get in front of somebody, and again, they may not use it a whole lot, but this is where it gets to be a challenge, kind of as we talked about. Buyers, we don't have the buyers are searching on Zillow and utilizing other search platforms, but getting sometimes just getting them to use it can be a huge benefit to us and make sure that they're only coming back to us. If you don't know, I've been in it, and so I've I'll share. I've utilized Zillow at points. I've kind of looked at it. It can be effective. I mean, let me rephrase that. It feels like it's effective, but if you really look at the return on investment, I'm going to tell you, I saw one zip code there advertising. Agents lost money investing in that zip code, so it's expensive. And so they take your money, and they control the way you do business, because if they have a buyer call you, you need to answer that phone right then, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. And that's not a fun way to have someone else controlling your business that way. So, but they, if buyers are getting on that, and if you don't get your app in front of them, and then buyers go get on that and they request information, it's going to, Zillow contacts them, gets them on the phone, and then warm transfers them to a different agent. So now they, at this point, you may have lost that client, and that's just what's going to happen. So it's important to educate your buyers. We'll talk a little bit as we get in there, but that's why getting them, on anything, on your information, letting them know what happens when they get on Zillow or Realtor.com or whatever else it is, that if they request information, their information will get, shared. Even if they don't talk to Zillow directly, then they just send that name and number out to several other agents, and, it goes from there. So, the 24% of recent home buyers reported their primary reason, for their purchase was their desire to own a home. So it continues to be, the American dream. People are wanting to own. That's what many of my first-time home buyers, whether they're, 21, or I had a lady that her kids were probably mid-30s, and she was buying her first home. She had rented the same apartment in Nixa for, was it 21 years? Yeah, someone did the math for and said you'd paid them $95,000. Yeah, poof, it's gone. And so this was this is probably 5 years ago. She's a family friend, and she bought a house for $93,000. So put the math on that. It's hard to find a house like that now, and now it would be $150,000 house. So she's done well for herself. Some of the other statistics: 9% purchased a home due to job-related relocation or move, and 8% bought to move to a better area for their family. So that's the other thing. You're seeing a lot of people moving around due to that. I will say, this being from 2014, as I look at some of the national trends and some things that are happening in my business, and watching, things rapidly changed in 2020. So as buyers are coming to this area, I know several. My insurance agent, great friend of mine. I He didn't think he would ever like working from home, and he has an office here in Springfield, and he started working from home in March of 2020, and he really isn't back working full time in the office yet. They've really he's got one of his agents that's in there all the time, but he's really he kind of moved and having all of his stuff at home. He goes, I know this isn't sustainable for me, but he's one that's even adapted this. So as more and more people are businesses were forced to consider that in March. Some of them saw how it was working. There are some large corporations, some even located here in the Springfield or Southwest Missouri area, that I've talked to. I know some of the some of the executive level that, there are certain business segments that, it worked really well for them working from home. And so they make, that's something that is now on a long-term plan to allow them to work from home. So why am I talking about all this? The reason is as more people, this is an option for more people. We're seeing more people move back to their hometowns. That's why he came back. He got tired of Nashville, right? Pretty much, yeah, I get it. But more people are moving back to their hometowns. They can get into other areas where, as long as internet's available to them, and there's all the new 5G stuff and things that are coming out, people are going to be available. And I would say this area is going to continue to be desirable no matter what else happens, because we've got a good affordability index, and people can get down here, and they may, as the way travel is, even if you worked for a company and needed to go once a week to Dallas from Springfield, it's pretty easy to get there. In my world, I used to drive back and forth to Kansas City sometimes in one day, just for meetings. So it is our world is getting smaller, and so people are. I think we'll see the one that says people moving for job related. I'm interested to see how that plays out, and that's one of the things I'm excited about. Some of the different changes. I think we'll also you're seeing more people looking for office and school space in their homes. Some people that maybe downsize too far. I've had a couple of conversations like that recently. And then multi-generational housing, I think, is going to continue to be a hot topic. So it's a good thing I don't like my mom enough, but we know she'd live with my sister, so it's fine. So those are all factors. I think you're going to see changes, and if I had a crystal ball and knew that's what it would be, it'd be great. But that's just kind of my thought as I'm looking around, at some changes I've seen in my business and what could be coming, and changing for us as we get into this next year. It is an exciting time, and even I had a client in Ozark. He had a big house in Ozark that he was selling. He bought a new construction house. His son was a freshman last year, sophomore this year, and he was doing that because he's kind of in the mortgage world, to high regional levels. So he was selling his home, buying a different home, and knew that long term he wanted to be in Colorado. And so he did that. Well, his son chose to do online school this year in Ozark. The only reason he was staying here was because of his kid going to school at Ozark to graduate, his youngest kid. It's the only reason he was staying. So we had lots of conversations. He goes, if that's what's going to happen, we're out, we're done. There's no reason for us to be here. And so he started looking for property in Colorado, and may build out there anyway. So that's just the stuff that we're, I think is going to be driving some buyers as we get into the new year, or as we get into the future of business. So we will. Okay. So, or we'll get. I guess I'm ahead on the screen, but there are when you're working with buyers, there are three things that we've got to find the right home, we've got to show qualified homes, and ultimately we've got to bring our buyers to a decision. My very first client in real estate was a retired guy from Nebraska. First buyer's agency I ever had signed, first buyer I had ever met with and done a consultation with, and he signed the buyer's agency. He was in education most of his career. He's retired, but he had been at a high school, and he left, and he went and sold typewriters for 2 years, and then he got back into education, ended up finishing at as a dean of some sort at a school, kind of like OTC here locally. But he's riding in my car, and it's back when we could do that kind of thing, and we were just looking at the area. They were trying to decide if they liked it. And he goes, man, you know what's selling real estate? He's like, you're lucky. He goes, you don't have to create a problem for them to buy a house. And it kind of hit me, and I almost crashed my car, and I mean, it was kind of a mess. But he, so really got me thinking. I can be a deep thinker, but what he went on to kind of talk about it. He goes, when I was selling typewriters, I have to go door to door, whatever he had to do. And he had to create a problem for that person to want a typewriter so that he could then sell it to them. That's the sales process. Did you guys know that? Government taught you that? I mean, but it's a sales process for everything. That's why advertising on TV, oh, I got to have that new iPhone. Oh, I got to have that, I don't know, whatever. Gucci purse, Michael Kors, whatever. I'm trying to think what I want some jewelry. But down to, I want that candy bar, right? That's what advertising is all about. So it's creating the problem, and then they go and they buy it somewhere. And he goes, real estate, you don't have to do that. The problem's already there, and they're coming to you for the solution. That has defined I'll be honest that we still stay in contact. He has never bought a house from me, but I will say that was the most important appointment I've ever had in my life when it comes to real estate. Now, whether that impacts you guys the same, I don't know, but I like to share it because we're really helping a buyer make a decision. When they're working with us, the only thing we're trying to sell is them to choose us. That's the only thing you're doing. Once they're your client, nothing else matters. They're either gonna want to sell their house or they're not. They either want to buy a house or they don't. We're not in it to convince them that they need to buy a house. We can't convince them that this is the house for it. And if we're doing that, we actually put ourselves in a dangerous place, and so we're to consult them along the way and help them make that decision. So to me, that is the, I'll share that bit with you guys. And your, for your, and your buyers are creating some of their problems, if you will, for you to solve. Once they meet with you, do you think buyers are only doing their searching through you at that point? Yeah, they're going to continue their search online, right? Even if you set them up a portal and are sending them listings based on what they said they want, they're still going to bring you a house and say, hey, did you see that house at 123 Main Street? I want to take a look at that. And that's where you get into, some of the conversations. Right. Or you say, yeah, well, that, or it's, you don't, that doesn't have a fourth bedroom, and you told me a fourth bedroom's real important to you. So it's part of that where there's a reason it didn't come up in our search criteria. And that's, this just kind of went across. So I'm sure those that have been in real estate longer have had this, but the other thing that'll happen, they'll find a house online, and anyone had a buyer ask them about a pre-foreclosure? Does everyone know what a pre-foreclosure is? Want me to don't? Okay, I want to make sure because I know there's people that said they had. So a pre-foreclosure, a lot of times you'll see that that is when payments may have been missed and reported, and so they're going towards a foreclosure process potentially. But all that's happened is payments have been missed. The bank hasn't notified, hasn't sent out foreclosures, and it can be redeemed. And redeem meaning if the buyer just makes another payment, it pushes that off. Zillow advertises those. Yeah. So that's one place you can see them. I think you can see them other places, but anyways, but that's an objection, when it comes to working with your buyers, when it says, pre-foreclosure, what does that mean? Now, it could mean that the house is going on to foreclosure, and that it'll be sold at the courthouse steps. But it's not on the market. Now, we can talk about what could you do in those situations. Listing opportunity. You could find a way to reach out to that seller to say, hey, now I would never go to them and be like, hey, Patrick, I see your house is in pre-foreclosure. Would you like to, would you like, yeah. But so it's it may be a tricky question, but especially in today's world when most people do have equity in their homes, it absolutely, I mean, at any time, it's a listing opportunity because if you could get the house sold for them, it would work. There was one, and unfortunately, I missed. I had the date wrong. There was one that was showing in Ozark, and so this is real recent. I had a client ask me about it. It was in Nixa, but Ozark Schools. It was in Fairhaven. And it sold. I had it down that it was going to be today. Nope, today's the 20th. Tomorrow's the 21st. I had it that was going to be tomorrow, on the 21st, and really it was on the 14th. It was 14 of 21, not 121. But so it was in the paper. That's where you can go verify it. It was listed as a pre-foreclosure. And then it said, hey, this is going to be sold on the courthouse steps in Christian County on 121 between 9 and 5 is when they're going to sell it. Probably around 1 is how it's listed. And if you've never looked at foreclosure listings. So that is an opportunity when it comes to finding and showing homes. As well, knowing what's out there, and subscribing. I know no one loves the newspaper. I mean, you may not read the newspaper, but that can be having that subscription. That's where you're going to find that information if there's really a foreclosure sale. That's still how that's utilized. They put them in there. So just a nugget. Yeah. Right. Right. You're not, so yeah, it's harder to get paid on them, unless you're getting paid by the buyer. So it absolutely, but that's where knowing the information, what's there, you can do it. We have recently represented a buyer, but they're a long-term client of ours, and, they were willing to pay us. But we knew that was there. They were buying it, and then they flipped the house, and it's under contract in Ozark now. So we did not bid on it for them. No, we just let them do it. We were just there. We were there with them, but they didn't pay us. I mean, we chose, it wasn't worth, if that makes sense. It's not, they would have if we had wanted it, I guess is where I'm going with it. We could have had that conversation, but we've done probably 20 transactions with them, and when they were gonna put the house back on the market, we knew we would list it at that point, so it wasn't, it was. I think they bought it for $30,000. So it was worth it to make it clean and easy. So yes, you're absolutely right. It is harder to you're getting paid on a foreclosure sale, and you need to know some of those processes because you don't have any rights to anything. Most of the time, you can't even go inside the house, and you're not even guaranteed that people are out of the house. So yeah, it can be real. Yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That is, I would never do one without having that's part of having a good relationship with the title company that will do a title search for you and make sure that those types of things are clear. Because you could buy the house for 30,000 and then have owe more. Depends on the property, I guess. So yeah, yeah, and the county. But yeah, you actually deal with because there can be all kinds of things, and this is one I hadn't heard of. We had someone that had a mom had passed away, and there's a whole lot of other things going, but she had hospice, and hospice had a lien against the house. So the problem is the owners, the kids, were too scared to figure out what really the issue was to really give us any more information. So they decided they didn't want to sell it because it would have been, um, what mom owed on the mortgage was nothing, for what the house could have been worth. It needed an investor to, fix it up. But anyways, it's knowing those things, and that is getting into a different level of buying. So some of those houses really, that's where you want to have an investor that would allow about those investors may want to buy them and fix them up and allow you to resell them, or you yourself if that's something that you want to get involved in. But there are a lot of risks, and you need a lot of the challenges that are there. So when finding homes, there are what 900 homes on the market. I shared some information, just my office in Ozark. So I focus a lot on Christian County and looking at that. There were part of it I'd left my notes. So Monday there were 35 homes on the market in the Ozark School District. Tuesday, that number was 34 when I looked, and then several homes went under contract. So I don't know where it is. Nixa on Monday had 42 homes on the market, and Ozark had actually had 34, and 27 had gone under contract in the last 7 days. So just to give you guys a picture of kind of where the real estate market is. Nixa, Christian County as a whole, I think it's like 140 houses on the market or something. I mean, I was just kind of looking at it and trying to decide. I was going to share some information about it, but I wanted it was just a little different. So we're when it comes to finding the homes, and it talks, we'll talk about some of those things, but it's a real struggle right now. And I was really thinking about this class as I got to teaching it. I'm like, it's a little different than even some of the material right now, because I've sold more homes in the last 12 months off the market or before they could get to the market than I had my entire career. And just it's crazy, and thought I was going to have another one this weekend because of a house I've got coming up on the market. And the seller knew, referred a buyer to the house, and they came and looked at it. So, I mean, and they had an agent, so their agent brought them to come see it, but still, it's that's just kind of the way things are going, depending on what you're looking at. I looked at yesterday a walkout basement in Ozark that'll be under $215,000, built in 2012. There's nothing that compares. I did when I was doing comps on it, there's nothing. It will be the only one that fits what's out there. So it's, and when they decide to do it, I was telling her they're going to relocate to Texas. And I was like, well, when do you want to leave? Because if we put it on the market, it's, when do you want to leave? And she's like, oh, I better wait till March. I'm like, then wait till March, because I get it. So, but that being said, when it, comes to finding them, and this goes into a little bit of, I want to make sure I cover everything. But the first thing, because this kind of talks about setting them up on a buyer information or a portal. So yes, you want to do that. And there are times, and I'll go with it. If I get a phone call from somebody and I've not met with them and they tell me, hey, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house under $175,000 in Ozark or whatever, they won't just come right out and tell you that. But that's part of my qualification question. I'm like, what are you looking for? And if they've been pre-approved or they know their price range that they want to be in, I get that information, and I may set them up on that search at that point. Now, why would I do that before I've even got a buyer's agency agreement with them? Yeah, I want something getting in front of them every day if I can, because I want to make sure they come back to me. And it was interesting when I talked to, when I was listening to this podcast this morning. That may have been, sorry, things run together. I think this was Tim and I talking yesterday, and he talked about we talked about, say, Zillow or whatever it is. So if you're, say I met with a buyer, let's say I've even got a buyer's agency, I could have a buyer's agency signed with them, or I might not, and they reach out and request some information on Zillow, and so now you get on the phone with them. I'm just gonna pick on Patrick because I think I can. He looks like someone I can pick on. Okay, so Patrick gets on the phone with them, and they're asking him, about a house, and he shares some information and, whatever. At that point, if he doesn't ask, are you working with an agent? But he's like, well, I'll stay in contact with you. I'll see what other houses are out there like what you asked about, like this house, or that maybe that house won't work, so you can't schedule a showing. But now at this point, has Patrick done anything wrong sending them listings? Not knowingly. And so who knows where that client may go at that point, even if they haven't met with them. And that's why, to me, my goal is to get in front of a client. We can do all this stuff over the phone. We can do everything. I can set you up on a search. I can do, set these things up. But none of it matters until I meet with them. And when I meet with them, I know my numbers, and I know how many people I meet with, will end up closing a deal with me, and if they're pre-approved and they're qualified to buy, it'll be an even higher number. Uh-huh.
Have you changed your?
Yeah.
But also being.
Right. Right.
So.
Right.
Suggestions?
Well, let me ask, was it 17 acres with a barn that we just listed that he wanted, if it's that quick, if it's that, I want to know. I'll go with you. No.
He wants 10 to 20 acres, so maybe.
We just listed one that was 230,000. It's got a barn and shared well. Anyways, I'm not. I didn't. I was just. That was just a joke. That was just a joke. Yeah.
My husband says, do you have your gun?
So safety gets into a whole nother area, and especially when it comes to females, and and there are times I've been concerned where I mean, I'm not gonna. I've met some sketchy people and been in situations I wish I hadn't been. Nothing's ever happened to me, fortunately, but there are times I'm like, what exactly am I doing? And probably sometimes even more so on land. I pulled up to, if you guys want to look up Cap Hill Ranch. It's down South Ozark. You get down onto a dirt road, wooded. Yeah, it's a sketchy area. And I realized I pulled down over there, and I'm like, I don't have any idea who I'm about to meet. I got no clue. So, end up being good people. But so I'll try and divide this up a little bit. Have I changed a whole lot? I'll be honest, not a whole lot. I mean, I do more. I do a whole lot more electronic signatures than I used to. I used to do a lot of my listings, pen and paper, and I would sit in somebody's house longer. I did. I'm actually impressed. I haven't coughed yet. I was blessed to have COVID between Christmas and New Year's, so it's a whole nother world. So now I'm probably even less concerned about it because I've got immunity. I'm fine, right? But I have still tried to meet with them. I've offered, I have done some video showings and video consultations and some of those things. So those are all options, but it never became a huge part of my business. Because I found a way to make it work. I probably did more when things were really shut down. Business was very different. And there was a point kind of in the middle of all that where a huge percentage of my business, like 90% of our business early in the year last year, was repeat and referral business. So I knew everybody. So it was very. No, I know. So I'm just trying to answer from this year how that has changed. So, but still, I made it a point to get in front of them, and so when I was when I started, as far as being a buyer's agent, we used to talk to people, talk to everyone. I don't know if you guys if they're still sharing these numbers, but 60% of people I met with chose to do business with me, and 80% closed. We closed something. They actually bought something. That's the standard we used to getting. And if you were below that as an agent, we had other conversations. Okay, so I have always been about getting in front of somebody, and really the numbers, so that breaks down. If you do the math, half of everyone you meet with, it's 48%. If you do the transitive properties and blah blah blah, the people you meet with, you should close on a loan. Now, I ran numbers closer to 70 and 90%, and you never know who you're meeting with. So I still, in today's world and climate, we're at least in an area where most of the time we can meet with somebody. A Zoom meeting works as well, and I know there are a lot of agents that did that at a much higher level than I did. So I would completely do that. On the safety area, I'll put it out there. I'm call me and I'll go with you. I don't care. Take someone with you. Maybe a way if you've got any concerns, taking somebody with you is a powerful thing to do. Doesn't following some of the safety guidelines. Showing land is weird, so I have worked with other agents and with and even not just female agents or male agents, but both. When it comes to land, land is a little more challenging sometimes I think it's easier. Really, like Rick and I, we talk about we'd love to just sell land because there's not really any inspections, and it's like usually once it's under contract, the buyers are usually really qualified, more qualified. They've got more of a plan when they're buying land. There's less fall through. So from that side, I love land, but where land is hard is it's sometimes hard to find the features, like, if you're looking for certain things, buyers that want land are pickier because there's not a way to really search for some of the things that people want out of land. So all that being said, call the listing agent, and so a lot of times your listing agents would be happy to meet you out there on the land, be able to show you better where the property lines are, how things are going to lay out. And that is something that can be done as well. And there are some, if they're big, where I can't remember where it was. Can't remember. Anyways, there had one of the guys had ATVs. The listing agent sold a lot of land, and that was just part of his one thing he did. So he brought him out to to be able to see all of the land, because you want to make sure you want to know even if the land is vacant, go show. You want to have a conversation with that that listing agent on how to show it. When it comes to it, because if it's when I first started in real estate, I drove a Toyota Camry. There are places that wouldn't have worked, and then my next vehicle was an Acadia. It was all-wheel drive, but and I'm gonna say this because we owned it for a long time, but I just took it from my wife. But it's really just a minivan without sliding doors, that sits up a little higher. So I took that through some fields, and I'm like, what am I doing? So it's, knowing what you're driving into a property. And even my truck, I showed a piece of property that said have 4-wheel drive to get down and out of the property. And I scraped going down the hill on the bump, and then I forgot to put it in 4-wheel drive to go back up. And it was I don't know, it was 45-degree grade, but and the listing agent told me they had one person they had to tow out. They didn't read those instructions, and they went in there without 4-wheel drive. So there's a lot with land when it comes to doing that. But definitely safety first, and from whatever that is, and I'll put it out there if anyone ever needs someone to go with them. I'll go. I don't always carry either, but sometimes just another person there makes all the difference in the world. So and I'll try and go back through this. So I want to talk about, meeting with them and discussing what, having that buyer consultation, and it's about talking about what they really want, and what's important to them. So there are times you'll hear the top 5 must-haves. That's some of the information that this shares. So when we sit down to kind of talk, and this can be over the phone as well, so however it is, but when we're talking about what somebody wants, so there are 3 things that are extremely important, and with your buyers, they are the 3 things that they cannot change, and that is location, lot, and layout, the 3 L's. If they want a walkout basement home layout, you can't make a ranch a walkout basement home. You can, don't get me wrong. It's just, and these 3 things, you can change them technically, but it's going to take a whole lot of money. And if they've got that much money, let's up their budget and let's find them something else. Does that make sense? When it comes to finding homes, location is the most important thing. For me, the most frustrating buyers I have are the ones that'll live anywhere. That sucks, because you could literally go show them a house in Marshfield and then end up in Marionville. And I've done it. And it's so hard. That is the worst buyer for me. I do, for location, I do a lot of my searching. Not everybody cares about school district, okay? And if you don't have kids or you don't really care where your kids go or if they go to New Covenant, you know, you don't care what the school district is that you live in. But I do a lot of my searching. If someone tells me they want to live in Ozark, a lot of times I will do the search by the Ozark School District, because most of the time that's what people, when they say it, that's what they want. And if I can't, so I don't know how well everyone knows the area, but there is an area in south. It is Ozark address, zip code 65721. It is south of Nixa and west of Highway 160. So if you search by the zip code of 65721, you can get a listing over there, a house over there. And it is a Nixa phone number, Spokane School District. So that's why I search by school districts, because typically that's more, an area. And if it's in between Nixa and Ozark, there are several homes that are Nixa address Ozark schools. And there are Sparta address Ozark schools, and even some Rogersville that are Ozark schools. And it's usually right in that vicinity where people want to be. The other thing is you'll run into Millwood has got an Ozark address, Springfield schools, some Rogersville, I think. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So that's again why I try and narrow things down by school district, or I use use the map tool. I don't know if everyone knows what I'm talking about, but use the drawing tool. So I utilize those things to help narrow down the area. So location is the first thing that I want to figure out for somebody, because that's going to dictate a whole lot for me and really allow us to narrow it down. And if they tell me like, now I want to be in Kickapoo School District, or maybe Glendale, I'm like, well, what's going to be a 10? And these are the questions I have. What would make it a 10? They're like, oh, Kickapoo schools. That's my first choice. Well, then I'm only going to search in Kickapoo schools for a while. That's just what I'm going to do, or whatever that location is. Location also matters. We'll ask this. I guess I'll wake up. I don't know who all's online, but I'll have them answer. If I said I wanted to be in South Springfield, what does that mean? Let's see if anyone answers. And I guess I'll open it up so we're not just sitting here. But what does South Springfield mean? I didn't think about this because I don't know how many people are online. South of 60, okay. South of Battlefield? Below James River Freeway, okay. That's my point. So we just all came up with several different answers. My wife thinks anything north of Sunshine's North Springfield. It's not, but that's a joke we have. Sorry. Yeah, she doesn't. And it's funny, she grew up on Atlantic Street on off of Kansas Expressway, and then grew up in Willard. So I just but so we laugh a lot about that. That's just a joke in our house. But that's an important question to clarify with your buyers when it comes to location. What does that mean to you? Because we want to be very careful, and this is finding homes and having some of these conversations. This can get real bad because you could sit there and say, oh yeah, north of Sunshine's a bad area. Are we steering somebody? So we have to be very careful with the words, with this type, because we're providing the information, and we got to be careful what we advise them. Same with school districts. If they're like, I just want to be in a good school district. Anyone ever heard that? What's a good school district? I'll tell you, I grew up in South Springfield, and I went to Kickapoo High School. Is that a good school? Sure, whatever. No, you went to Glendale? Well, absolutely. Still, I have an issue with Glendale. Yes, I agree. Glendale's not acceptable. My 6th grader played worked out with their quarterback's coach and his quarterback for football, and we had to go on the Glendale field. It was gross, but the but the so the but I went there. I was kid number 250 out of 500. Does that make it a good school for me? Lots of opportunities, different things to do. And I moved after my sophomore year of high school to South Callaway High School in Callaway County. I went back to claim my land. It was kind of a big deal. Not really, it's just a coincidence. But that's where I went. It's in Mocaine, Missouri. There were 50 people in my graduating class. And, huh? Yeah, that big. So culture shock for me, but I ended up being graduating number 7 in my class there. And I got focused on school, and that was a way better school for me. So school is very subjective, and that's where that's why I share that story. So it's important to let them know it depends on what they're looking for, and what's important to me. If you're, or what's important to them when it comes to school, because if we are in the Ozark School District, I like the Ozark School District, my kids go there. But if we moved, we probably would go to a smaller school district because of the experience I had. That's my personal, I wouldn't be opposed to going to Sparta School District or whatever, just because I had more opportunities. So I see a couple of people have gotten up. So we're narrowing down location, but I think we got some bathrooms. So you had a question, you can go for it.
Well, no, I just wanted to expand upon your.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay.
So anywhere in Springfield.
So anyway, so you can go live in Marshfield.
Yep.
Um,
So, I mean, 5 minutes
I know.
is a really
I
good
worked at
drive
the
for them.
hospital before I had kids. For 25.
All right, let's take a break. Real quick, I'll let you guys do that. what are you looking for? Or yeah, you had buyers looking for something. Okay.
They wanted at least
Right.
because they were downsizing.
Yeah. Yeah.
They needed a
Wow.
so they have
Right.
they wanted at least
Okay.
so
Gotcha. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's weird that. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, we had. Yeah. They want a small school district. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's why I hire a photographer.
well, I just hired one to take
Okay.
so I was like, I can't do this.
Right.
So
Maybe.
yeah, I know.
So,
Their max budget was 630. 40 by 60 building with concrete pad. Free.
oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know of anything that would.
Stressed with my life.
Wow. Oh, that would. Yeah, that'd be. I mean, if it's got the grease pit already on it, that if they're working on stuff.
Important part. The important part was me. Information. How do I get hold of?
Yeah. That's huge. 18-foot doors. I've got a house under contract in South Springfield that's got 17-foot sidewall, 16-foot doors. Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. This guy did it for his Class A motorhome, so. Okay. I'd turn into a basketball court. All right, what? you the one that got the? Yeah, I saw that on. I saw that on Facebook. That was funny. I mean, not funny when you get your cards in and you're excited.
I was like, yay! And then I was like, I saw that.
Yeah, that's why I do all mine. You know. Yeah. Yeah. That would happen to me. Yeah.
It'd
be my name on it with somebody else's picture. Right. If they're better looking, I'm fine with it. The company I used, it was. Yeah. I've got to order some new things. I use Marketplace Printing and Ozark. Shelly and their design team are amazing, so I just let them do it. I just went to them when I needed something done, and she and then charged. I think they charged me $20 for design, and then I don't know, the cards are maybe $60 or something. I don't know. It's not bad. That's for. I think I get 1,000 at a time because it's like $10 more to get the other 500 or something. It's like I bought 1,500. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's my deal. Yeah. And the truth is, most people don't utilize our cards for no. I mean, they're yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, I'll kind of. I think everyone, not everyone, is specifically back, but we'll kind of. We'll we'll start talking a little bit, and I just thought I'd get this. We've got Mindy's over here talking. Let's all be quiet and listen to what she has to say. We did bold together, so you know. Oh, hi. Okay, so we were talking about as we were trying to find the properties that are out there. So we're talking about some of the mainstream things, and I could probably get. Would it be more valuable for me to pull up Flex and kind of do some examples of what I search for? Would that be better than trying to get? Okay, let's do that. I think I can make that happen, and I feel like it's going to be. Maybe if I can figure out technology right. Heard that before. This is way different looking than mine. So when I meet with somebody, kind of do this. I feel like a radio star. I may grab one of those lower chairs. That may. All right, guys, back on KWFM. Are we seeing it all on the screen? Yes. All right, so I typically, if we were literally doing if I'm meeting with a buyer and we're talking about what they're looking for, a lot of times if I can, I'm even doing this when I'm talking to them on the phone if they can't see it, but I love to get in a conference room with them and have this up on the screen where they're seeing exactly what I am. And one, that's important in today's world because so I have some rules that when it would come to showing, and I still tell people this because I don't want to get out of the habit of telling them, but I typically won't show more than 3 to 5 homes to somebody at a time. And my reasoning for that is if we look at more than 3 homes, you start combining them and they start telling me, well, I want the house with the gray walls and had the beautiful fenced in backyard and the covered deck. And I'm like, that was 3 different houses you just combined into one. And I'm sure you want that house, but it doesn't exist. So it's important to narrow them down and set those expectations. And, whatever those are. Now, in today's market, many times when we look, there may be 2 homes that fit what they're looking for. And one may, we may be able to knock out immediately. So sometimes that's not as important, but I still have that conversation. So let's, so it's not, so I will pull this up and I'll, and sometimes I'll be taking notes with them, just kind of tell you how I do it. I may be writing some of it down and asking some of the questions and go in and then pull up Flex. But let's just, let's kind of go through it. So what area are we wanting to be in? Somebody, we'll just let somebody in the class say it out loud. Or Southeast Springfield. Okay, so what? So I'm gonna Glendale School District. Okay, that'll give us something a little easier to work with. So if you haven't searched for school districts before, it's important to know how they're listed. So maybe just something to look at. So Glendale Schools is actually SGF Glendale. So if you search for Springfield schools, you're not going to find anything. Same with Willard School District is WD. Ozark is OZ, and Nix is NX are the ones that I have recently used. But so we want to be in Glendale School District. And sometimes when I'm dealing with Springfield specifically, and well, any of the schools their size. So your Glendale's, Springfield Public Schools, Willard, Republic, Nixa, Ozark. I think that's the only ones I know of. Or if you get down into Branson, I'm iffy on if I go to Branson to sell real estate. So it depends on what they're looking for myself, because sometimes I don't think I'm the best to help. But I may ask for the elementary school because that's going to tell us, that may be more specific to a neighborhood, depending on the age of their kids. Now they may be, we just, she went to Glendale, so she wants her kids to go to Glendale in the future and doesn't have one that's in high school at this point. Yeah, she does. So yeah. So she would sit there and she may say Glendale schools, and it doesn't matter which elementary schools. She just wants them to end up being a Falcon. So, okay. So what, I'm going to ask the question: have you worked with a lender? And what have you been pre-approved for? And then what are you really comfortable being at? Because that's 2 different numbers. Sometimes someone's pre-approved for a large amount, but they don't want to buy a house over, 400,000, whatever the number is. It doesn't really matter. So, what's a price range we want to look at? Up to 220. Okay. All right, so I'm always watching this number up here in the top corner. I don't know if you can see where my cursor is. How many, huh? Yeah, it looks like they're running from Chestnut to James River Expressway. So 220 is where we want to be. I utilize this more in the past, but if 220 is like the absolute max, depending on where they really want to be, I may sit here and go, well, we're gonna look at houses up to 240, or 230, maybe 240 might be too high. Whoa. That's a little different number, isn't it? So, huh? Well, that's part. Yeah, that's part of it. But still, you never know when you hit the right one. So I will still do it. And part of that is when someone tells you 220 or whatever their budget is, even if the lender's like you're approved up to 220. And if that's their max, although I really dislike the second thing I dislike working with the buyer is when they are maxing out every penny and we've got to worry about tax and everything for them to qualify. That's always just a more stressful transaction. But I'm gonna bump it a little bit. And the reason is we may see a property that got overpriced and may sit there for a little bit. And we also, you never know when that buyer is going to see something and they're willing to adjust their budget. They may be. Now, I'm not going up much. I'm not going into a different price range, but I'm doing it to help us see some more houses on the market. I'm going to set that expectation with them that, this is why I'm doing it. And if you don't want me to do it, if you don't want to see anything priced over 220, which I've had buyers like that, I won't do that. It depends on the buyer, but you have to communicate why you're doing it. So I don't know how many buyers I've talked to before that, they're like, yeah, my agent, they send me stuff I can't even afford. They'll send me, $500,000 houses. Of course I want the $500,000 house. I just can't pay for it. All right, so we're in this price range. How many, what's important to you about the house is how I may ask it. I may not, you can be specific and be like, how many bedrooms are you thinking? Is that important? Sometimes if you ask a specific question, they'll be like, I don't care if it's 2 bedrooms. Well, then number of bedrooms aren't important to them, from whatever that is. So, but that's some of the stuff that I'm going to look at. So I will come in here and I'll say they want a minimum of 3 bedrooms. They want 2 baths. That's a must-have. They share that with us. They're like, I've got to have 2 baths because I'm not gonna get ready with my kids in the morning. I've got to have my own space. And then when it comes to size, maybe they don't know. They want something over 1,500 square feet. And as we could do a couple of different things here. So it may be that they say they want something over 1/4 of an acre. And I'm going to see if this will work. No, I'm going to do. So they say they want a 3-car garage. So I'm not so sure. Part of this, I'm going to be, the way they changed when they changed flex for those that have been around long enough and really searching for houses with garage stalls anymore is really, it zeroes everything out, it seems like. So obviously we're not going to search by garage. Let's see if we put in a 2. So all of the houses are a 2-car garage. So and I did that. I was trying to find something that would drastically reduce the numbers. I wanted there to be a couple of different things, but. Absolutely. So that's where, before, I'm trying to remember which one it was that did it. So I think it was the square footage. I don't know. There wasn't one. Anyways, so let me do this. I'm going to adjust if, for example, we are looking, this was what we were looking for. Okay. And then we're looking at 30 houses. I'm going to ask some more questions. We haven't, because there's going to be, if we look at those now, in this case, if it's 400, as they're telling me maybe more what they're looking for, I'm going to sit there and be like, we're not going to find anything under 250,000. Okay, that if they're looking for that, or in this case, I'm like, oh, you know, if that's not it, it may be that they're like, I want, 3,500 square feet. It may be that we're reducing it there. So that takes us down to 5 houses. And then the other thing I'll do is I start adjusting, those things in there to either to look at, all right, what's really causing where are most of the homes going away from, if that makes sense. So in this case, we know that it happened when we put in 3,500, and maybe 5 homes isn't enough. So it's like 3,000. That puts us up to 13. So that, there's between 3,000 and 3,500, there's a lot of, there's a big change in the number of houses. So I'm going to look for that, and I'm going to play with the numbers a little bit, even once we have it narrowed down, especially in today's market. There's a lot of times you're searching literally, we're searching a pretty big area of Springfield right now. Wouldn't you agree? When we look at this. So I'm going to, what I would really do if this was what we had and we had 5 homes, we're going from almost to I-44 to almost James River. And so we would, I'd kind of do the search and I'd kind of pull up what homes are there. And when we kind of look at them, this one's the furthest one north. I mean, it's a brand new construction home. Whereas, it's a beautiful home. Where we may come in here, and this is going to be more of an established, probably more traditional look. So we may realize real quick we're looking at a couple of vastly different homes and different locations. So it may be that we need to we need to look at that, and they're like, oh, those are the ones really we want to, they may say, well, we want Glendale, but really we want to be further south. They want to be south of Battlefield at this point. So then I'm going to draw an area here, knowing that kind of come down in here for schools. I did it wrong. This can be frustrating, but map out whatever you want. And at that point, they're like, I'd rather be down there and have something over 2,000 square feet. And so that only adds one more house, but anyways. So that's how I'm gonna search, search for homes. I'll give you a buyer that I'm working with right now, just to kind of give you what I did for them. So they, kind of a unique deal. She grew up in North Springfield. They want to be in, they would consider Willard. They're a referral from a lender I work with, and they're pre-approved, and they really want to be, their pre-approval letters up to 160. That could be fudged a little bit if they wanted it to. But she doesn't want to spend 160 because the perfect house was listed on the market for 160,000, and she didn't want to go look at it because she doesn't want to she feels that's uncomfortable to her. But for him, it's what he loves. So if one of the tricks, like the Willard School District's one of those tricky areas because there are Springfield addresses that are part of the Willard School District. Willard, you can use USDA, but Springfield you can't. So sometimes when you search just by the Willard High School, it's a little tougher to manage. And she actually went to school at Pleasant View, so she would be open to that area as well that would feed into Hillcrest, but doesn't really want to get into Ash Grove and some of these other areas. So what I did, kind of working with them, I did full map search, and you can. So I went in here and kind of did one of these, and they were also willing to go to Stratford, but she did not want to go to Fairgrove. So again, I'm sitting there. I'm like, we're getting really into it. But so what I did is I kind of came in here and I just followed I-44 a little bit, and then now it's not a perfect science because some of that is Springfield School District. But I pulled it up here, and they wanted to be under 160, and there are 3 homes now on the market. I guess I should be. God, I had some stuff on here that I didn't. So there are 4 houses that kind of fit what they were looking for, and none. There's still those came up with the Springfield address, and then the Willard two in Willard. You can also go in, and this is go in here, and I can do. They will sell it by USDA if you know they're working with a certain loan program. That's an effective way to try and eliminate it, and it does just pull up just the 2 in Willard. Yeah, you could do either one. So most, if it's conventional, almost any property or whatever, but that's where I was going. So that's great, but there are some agents out there that have not used much USDA or FHA, or they're scared of it, or they don't know the requirements of it. So just because it's not listed with those, now USDA, and that if talk with a lender more and have a good relationship with the lender, you can send a lender an address, they can verify what it is, but in the the grand scheme of things, it's basically anywhere outside of Springfield, Battlefield, and Brookline can go USDA. There's some weird areas like Rogersville in Greene County, like some of that doesn't work. But so that's an area you want to be careful of. But then Rogersville is also in Christian County and Webster, and that's fine. So yes, yep. And that's and that can be, you can do that as well. But if you've got a good relationship with a lender, sometimes you send it to them and they verify it. That's basically what they're doing. But yes. So anyways, but that way you can do that, and then learning, part of it, learning what those requirements are. I mean, you don't know all of them, but knowing, kind of going through some education on what will and won't on some of those government loans is important to know. To help you, because ultimately you're trying to narrow down to help them find the house. So any questions on kind of finding searching online, finding the houses, and what you've got going on, what we've got going on there? So that absolutely you can. If you're looking for a buyer in a certain area, that is a great opportunity to look at for sale by owners. If for sale by owners are not a major part of your business, which they're like, for me, they're not a major source for me going after for sale by owners for listings. That's just not something I've built my business on. Although it should be a spoke in my wheel. I'm going to be, just tell you the truth. Those are people that are selling their house and they're raising their hand, and they may not, there's no reason they shouldn't be. Them and expired listings, although we don't have a whole lot of expired listings, but both of them are people that have a desire to sell their house, and you may be the one that can help them. So why wouldn't we, I mean, I feel silly at times that I don't focus more on for sale by owners, but good. There you go. Yeah.
Not everybody likes them.
Yeah.
And you can give to
Yeah.
fine, thank you, goodbye,
And-
move on to the next guy.
And the next day you see it on the market. Mm-hmm.
And I was just all over area, but this was in.
Yeah.
And I found one that got me a buy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was
So you wanna if you want to attack for sale by owners and you want to stay top of mind for your sphere and referral partners and people of that nature, because can you drive around every neighborhood and see all the for sale by owners? Are you going to see it in all the areas? No. There's a time I called FSBO, especially when I was a buyer's agent. I like to know where the houses were. Sometimes I'd just call and ask them what they were selling, and I mean, to know the market is about knowing more than just what's on the MLS, but to know the for sale by owners that are there. I was in a B&I group, and I challenged everyone there to text me the address and picture of the for sale by owner sign. And so everyone was out looking around for me. And now think about if you shared that with your sphere, your centers of influence, that now when they're not only when they see your sign do they think of you, but now maybe every time they see a for sale by owner, they think of you. And ultimately, this is one of the things that Rick always shared with me. Your success in real estate is directly correlated to the number of people that when they think of real estate, they think of Guy Callaway. So, I mean, just a thought of somebody, I think somebody could put that. I know people that have put that together on a high level, but it's a way if you had a way to communicate that with your sphere and, those people that knew you, you could, you could do it. It could be, and I'm looking directly back at Tyler, I'm thinking about, who drives around more streets than anyone are police officers. And if police officers were thinking of it every time whether you called them or not, who knows? But just a thought. I don't know. I don't know if it makes, let somebody else use it. I have done that before. So, but that is, so knowing what else is out there, I'll caution you to be careful, spending too much time on, knowing everything on social media, but you can find stuff on social media. Our groups, whether it's the KW page, the Springfield Board of Realtors pages, or other agents that say, hey, I've got this coming up. That's always good to look at and pay attention on what somebody may have, and sharing that information. There are rules that you got to be real careful sharing it outside the brokerage unless you're really ready to list it. Because if you're caught advertising the house outside of your brokerage, you can be fined basically with the new clear cooperation guidelines. And I don't know if anyone knows some of those things, but because used to we could put a sign in the yard 4 days before it went live, and I utilized that to get sign calls, but you can no longer do that. You have 24 hours. So anyways, so you want to be careful with that. That's, we've got, and there are times, there are two schools of thought, in the market. Do you put it, just get on the market and hopefully you get a sign call out of it, or do you get it out there? What's more important to your seller? I've got I've got a house on Quarry Road coming up. It's a Sparta address, Ozark Schools, and we've got a contingency on a house, so I need to get it sold, but he's doing some concrete work. So, I share anyone that, knows anyone looking for a house on 3 acres. I've got it. It's coming, it'll be $310,000. And, but we're, listing sign, and we're ready to roll as soon as we can get the pictures done and get it on the market. So knowing that what buyers have, what agents have coming up out there is another place to find homes, and get in there and try and get them, if they're for your buyers, especially in the market we're in now, where you can't always wait for the sign to pop in the yard. Sometimes you've got to be ready to attack it. The other thing you can look at, and this is when it comes to looking for a house, is coming in. You could look at what's pending. You can, that this is a long shot, but these houses that are pending, could they fall through? If they're an agent, it may be worth a phone call, be like, hey, how solid is that deal? What's happening? You never know what they're going to share with you. Are there any expired listings? In this case, there are not. Coming soons, no showings, any that have been taken off the market or any canceled. And those, so there were 10 that were canceled. So could I go through each one of these and see what's happening with each of those? And did they sell? Were they relisted? And have they already sold? Because if they haven't, that's an opportunity for me to, and you can again I'll tell you the 2 ways you can do it. So a lot of people would sit here and they look at this and they go, I'm going to find out how I can get a hold of that owner. Let's say this house on Holly Ridge hasn't sold. So it is owner Leah Haynes, and that may be the buyer's. They're saying it's a listing agent's number, so that's good. So so they don't have the owner's phone number listed on the listing, but maybe you've got a way to go mine that data and find out how to reach out to this person, whether it's through Facebook or look up their phone number or whatever else it is. And you're reaching out to find out if they are still looking to sell their house. This is assuming, obviously, you need to verify that it hasn't already closed. Myself, I reach out to that listing agent. I'd call him. And just say, hey, or that'd be my first call. Because if he has a good relationship with them and they canceled it because of something else that's going on, or they canceled it because they lost their house, whatever the case is, he's going to, if they're wanting to sell, he's going to be an easy transition to get into that house, right? If I'm really looking just for a buyer at that point, that's just something I do. Right or wrong, there are people that say you should be going after they're an unrepresented. I'm at that point, I'm worried about the easiest way for me to sell the house for my client. And if that is going through that agent and them getting to sell the house, that's what I'm gonna, that's the quickest path there. If I called this guy and he told me they fired me, or he's probably not gonna say that, but be like, they just canceled the listing, they decided they didn't want to sell it. That doesn't mean I'm gonna stop. I may still try and find that person's contact, but the quickest way for me to get to him is through that previous agent. So that's just something I do. Again, right or wrong, I had many people that did that for had a listing that expired, and I had conversations over and over about that house, and the seller, the deal is the seller was going to sell it, but he had lost the house that he wanted to buy, so he let it go off the market and let them rethink what they were going to accomplish. So anyways, any questions on finding properties off the market? Yes, you can, because that will get syndicated out, and it's listed as a coming soon. Just no one can see it. You can't show the houses. So it's kind of a miss. Yeah, it's a. I've had several conversations with the board and trying to figure out, how to utilize that. Just because there's, you can do it, but you can't. So it advertises and gets out there to some people. Oh, I am so sorry. He asked if you could share the coming soon listings with your clients, and you could set that up to notify buyers of the coming soon listings, or share those with them. Absolutely, but I don't know. I mean, it's not utilized enough. But it'd be a way to get if they want to see the houses and be prepared to know when one can be shown. I know there's one recently that was coming on the market. I think it was on a Friday. I saw it on Sunday or something, and it was coming on a Friday or some of those. One of those things I have for myself, I have certain hot sheets that I look at. I don't look at the market altogether, but I look at, some specific areas that I like to know everything that's coming on the market. So I saw that. So, yes, if that makes sense. Okay. Kind of in the notes, someone had asked me number of homes that I like to have in a search. It defined in the notes as 15. It depends on what we're looking for me. 15 is a good number. If it's over 20, I'm certainly looking at how we reduce it. But I like if we're getting too many homes, it can be overwhelming. And especially in today's market, if you've got that many homes to look at. There's probably something that needs to be narrowed down, whether it's kind of narrowing that price range down, or whatever it is. So, when it comes to showing homes, that's where I guess I could stay out here on this. So I have a system that I use and just learn from my first time. We have green folders are buyers and red folders are sellers, and part of that's just to allow you to look at the files that are up there and narrow down your search at a quick glance. So it's not anything outside of that, but when I am going to show houses, if we're getting ready, as far as getting the details, this is we want to show this house here. I'm going to, first look at any agent remarks that are there, so we kind of know what's going on. I want to know how many days it's been on the market. I want to look at showing instructions, and then I'm going to reach out to even though this one's vacant, I may send a text or call or carrier pigeons or something to the listing agent just to see what I can find out about the house. So, for example, this one's been on the market 7 days, and it's in a price point that's a pretty hot price point. What's going on with this now? This happens to be one because I had a buyer looking. I've had this conversation with Sam, and I called him. I've done business with Sam before, so I called, catch up, and then just kind of ask him, kind of what's happening. Is the house available? Because I met with these buyers on Saturday, and house had been on the market 3 days, and we couldn't go out and look at houses right then. And do you guys know there's some big football game? Who is it playing Sunday? The Chiefs. He was a big Chiefs fan, and that's more important to him than buying a house too. So he couldn't get out then, and then they went to work. So I really am. I like the Chiefs. I'm actually I do have a flaw though. I'm a Cowboys fan. If I had to, yeah. It, yeah, I mean, I just lost a lot of respect in the room, but it will tell you that I'm loyal, right? Because we're terrible. um, and so, anyways, it was just funny when I asked him. I was like, "Do you want me to try and set that up for tomorrow?" He's like, "From 2 to 5, I am booked, and I am not." So I just thought it was funny. He so I called, talked to him at the house, kind of what was going on. They had one offer from an investor, and it was a low ball offer, and that's all they'd really had at the time. So I'm going to look at that and kind of see what the case is. This is one, and just because I was looking at this with the sellers or with the buyers, I caught something that I looked at with them as well. But I would so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to print the input sheet out, and I'm not going to print it actually, but you click on print, and then I print both the public and private reports. So I print the public report to give to the client when we're looking at the house, and then I've got the private one for me in case there's anything I need to know. So I'm gonna hit print on that, and but then this was one that I actually looked at when we were looking, and I noticed the owner was an LLC. So that makes me, and again, I have a doctorate in MSU. Some of you others may have it and not realize you have it as well, but my doctorate is in making stuff up. And so I'm pretty good at it, and trying to tie pieces together, but seeing it's owned in an LLC makes me think it was an investment property. So they may have nothing in the disclosures, and that was just one of those things that I guess, but I again was wrong, and it's the first time it's happened that I was wrong, so it's kind of a big deal. Just wanted to share that with you guys, but so it was they did complete most of the disclosures. I've actually owned the house since '93, which I thought was interesting. Sometimes seeing a house own that long, you don't know the story beginning, kind of make it up. And I go through the seller's disclosures, get an idea, make sure there's nothing glaring, any of the big things that are important. I tell my buyers that I let them look for the lipstick on the pig in the house, and I like to make sure the boring things are taken care of. So roof, windows, HVAC, those types of things are what I call the boring things. They're all important to us, but nobody wants to spend money on them. Everybody wants to paint the house, put new floors in, new appliances, that's all fun stuff, but shopping for shingles sucks. So anyway, so I, check kind of some of that stuff, make sure the house is in, what kind of the status is. There are certain areas that I'm going to look at, some things differently, and you can get caught with it as well. It's not like I know all the areas, but just there are some areas. The first house I ever closed on was a battlefield address, and in Kickapoo School District, and it was actually in just a subdivision, but it had a septic tank. And there were some issues with the septic tank. And so you get a septic tank on a real small lot, and that's just something you need to be aware of, that there could be, it was a place where they were going to bring sewer through. And anyways, but so I'm going to look at that, and I'm also going to print off the disclosures because I like to have those at the showing when I can. And this is obviously when, if you were to ask me, have I ever shown up without doing all this? Absolutely. There are times I'm pulling it off my phone and looking at all the information when we get there, especially if someone calls me and I don't have a chance to go back to the office, or in today's world. Yep. Doesn't know. I do. I tell my clients, I was like, some of that we're going to find out in the inspection process. I get why they do it. I find it, at times I find it funny when someone's flipped an entire house and remodeled it all and they don't know anything about the house. For my clients, I tell them actually, the more we disclose, the better we are at disclosing if we know anything or what's happened. As a listing agent, the better off we are. If they're aware of it prior to the inspection process, the better off we are. in some cases, if we know about it. And I tell my buyers, when it comes to buyers, because we all have, all buyers are different. That's fair to say. And, there are some that, my working with my in-laws on a house, and it did not have they had missed a box. They didn't check it, but it's in their mindset. It's like, are they trying to hide something because they didn't answer that one question, whatever it was? Well, I tell them, really, these first four are the ones that are required. Everything else is optional. So even if they don't check that box, but they miss a question, it's not a requirement. I mean, they're, wherever that is. And anyway, so just kind of roll with it. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong. Sometimes it is, they really don't know, Right. Yeah. I mean, it's better. You're better off to have more of it done. But, from my stance, I prefer to have more disclosures filled out than not filled out. But I'm with you there. I think it's easy. I think it's, if you know the information about the house, I'd rather them not do it if they don't know about the house, though. If they really don't know, then there's no reason to do that. And then, it's funny, some of this, it says try to give 24 hours notice, and, some of that. So when it comes to scheduling showings, I'm going to set them up. Depending on the situation, I'm going to, I think I've got. So you've got to know the area that you're going, right? And so if you're showing, let's say whoa, I can't count. It's because I went to Kickapoo. All right, so if you're showing 3 houses, it's as high as I could count today. So, and they're all, let's say they're all in South Springfield and relatively close together. I'm probably going to schedule it, something like, say I want to do this one from, not a good. So I'm going to say 10 to 10:30. And then I may schedule this one, say these are in the same neighborhood, I may schedule it from 10:15 to 10:45. Okay? And because they're all close, and that's assuming I know my client, if I've shown them houses before and I know they're gonna see it pretty quickly. And then if I can get away with it, I might schedule this last one from 10:30 to 11:30. And this is just me, and I say if I can get away with it. A lot of times sellers don't like to have an hour window, that someone's coming to look at their house. So I'll narrow that down if I can. I also, if let's say you're showing these 3 houses and you find out that this one's vacant, then I'm going to move that, if they're all relatively close together, I may just kind of let that one be there, and we may change our route if need be. There are times I just put that at the end. That way, if we get there early or if we're running late, it's fine. So just kind of when it comes to scheduling your showings on that. Now, the one thing you gotta remember, you get into some areas, and to me, it's like you get into Branson, it's the worst. But even if you're showing houses that seem close together, you may be 45 minutes apart, by going around the lake. But if you were showing a house, say, it would not be uncommon to show a house in maybe Clever and Billings, or maybe Clever, Billings, and Republic, or Ozark and Nixa, are shown a lot together. There are people that like Republic, Ozark, Nixa. So you may be all 3 areas. So if you've got more of a drive time between them, it may have to be 10 to 10:30, and then this one you may not be able to be at until 11. And you just need to adjust that for what your actual drive time is going to be between the houses. And lastly, it comes to actually setting up your showings. I have had buyers that would spend 15 minutes or less in a house. And I've also had people that wanted to place every piece of furniture they've ever had in their house, in every single house they went and saw. So sometimes you don't know that on your first showing, and it's a hard question. You can't ask the buyer, how long are you going to spend in the house exactly? So you've got to be aware of that. If you were dealing with people that look at longer, you may want to, you want to extend your times. And then the other, and then, part of it's about realizing that people are leaving their home, to show how, and they want to sell their house. But if you get tied up or you're late at your first one to know you're going to be late, as you can, you need to try and let the agent or somebody know that you're running behind, and get, kind of get out of it. Yep. That's a fantastic idea. Absolutely. I do my info sheet, and on the my copy, I write the time we're showing it, and so it's got their contact information right there. But that is, if you put it on one sheet, kind of your deal. That's an even a better plan than even mine, because there are times I've had to flip through them. Yes. Yep. Exactly. So now I will. This is maybe next level, but so I've lived in this area my entire life, and I still don't know where I'm going half the time. You know what I mean? Like I don't know every street that I can turn down, and so when it comes to me, like going to houses, I almost always turn GPS on to the house, even if I know where I'm headed. But I will almost always use the Flex MLS and the directions out of that, where they've put the house, especially in country air, some different areas. There are times that my in-laws used to live in Buffalo address, Pleasant Hope, Tin Town. You're in that area, so you know Tin Town. So that's where they lived. When you typed in their address, you went 17 miles away into Buffalo. So sometimes typing the address is dangerous. And what we sold, let's see, I sold that house on 125, and we closed in December. So it was in, I think it was in October, end of October. We were looking at houses, and I also, the other thing I do, just I put, like, if I schedule an appointment for tomorrow in my Google Calendar, I will put it in my Google Calendar, and I'll actually put the address in my where we're meeting at, like it's the first house. So I'll get a notification when I need to leave from wherever I'm at, because I do have a tendency to get distracted. So, and then I've got the directions right there. But I had done that, and it was a house on KK in Fordland, is where was the address. It was Rogersville School, but Fordland. It took me down U Highway off of 160 down KK. It made sense, and things all looked right. And I get there, and it says, "You're here," and I go, "No, I'm not." And I was 10 minutes away from where I really need to be. It was on the north side of, Highway KK. So if I typed in Rogersville as the city, it took me to the right place. But if I put Fordland, it took me to the wrong place. Just funny things about, direction. So that's why I use it. So I'm trusting that most listing agents are plotting the houses where they're supposed to be. Although I have seen that wrong as well too. So it's always worth checking. So directions. And so that, hold on, I think that is the thing I wanted to talk about. Okay. So on page 18, you've got a checklist, home showing checklist. Man, I'll tell you what, that is awesome. I think that is so cool, and I love it. And it also gives me the heebie-jeebies, because I am not detailed enough to to use this. I'm just being real.
Some of the stuff roof and like, how am I gonna
Right. You're not. I mean, I'm not a home inspector. That's a, but we want to get a home inspector to take a look at that. I mean, whatever it is. I mean, there are some things that I can look at now and I'm be like, I will say, I've seen stuff like that in inspection. I don't know what's on the other side of that wall. Inspector may say that, this is what, I mean, it's a, is what it is. But I try not to get into it and let, be like the home inspector will tell us more about that. But it's something you want to know, because here's the other side. Another great buyer's agent, here, if you ever get to hear her speak, is Kathleen Hayworth on the Holt team. And she's someone I know pretty well. And, she showed one of my listings, and she was right. And I had been concerned about it listing the house. The roof was old. There was a concern. And so she wrote up her offer asking for the roof to be replaced. She knew, I mean, it was, just one of those times. And there are other people that'll do that, but noticing some of that stuff, if you know there's an issue when you're looking, and that's where some of this is powerful. And if you can get it addressed in your offer initially, it makes the inspection process just a little bit better. And we've got one going on. So my team there's 5 of us that work together as far as our team. And Ronnie does my admin. Andy's also a licensed agent, and he's got somebody under contract, and it was a multiple offer situation, and they went $4,000 or $5,000 over list price. And this was a cash, transaction, and he wins. Do the inspection, and the roof is original, and it needs to be replaced, plain and simple. And the seller is balking, is kind of like, what, but it's something that's going to have to be done. It didn't matter who the buyer is, or they're going to pay a lot less for the house. So the sellers need to take action, from that side. So, and they're not sure what they're going to do, what's going to happen. So who knows? It may come back on the market. So, yeah, no, you're fine. Absolutely. Anyone interrupt.
So in a situation like that, that go in seller's disclosure? If you've had says this roof needs to be
So what would need to go in seller's disclosures on this one, and depends on the situation. So yes, if an inspection's been presented and that's the thing and it falls through, they should update, and this is probably something more to talk to Jim on, but they really, the seller's disclosure should be updated. And in this case, they did not put an age of the roof on there. Well, now if it's come that it's true that it's 20, I think it was 26 years old. If that's the truth, if that's the truth, instead of putting nothing there, they probably should update it to say it's 26 years old. It would certainly help. And then, they don't always have to disclose why it fell through. But if I'm an agent and a house has fallen through, I call and ask that question, and most agents are going to tell you what the issue was, because that's unless they may say that, the roof's functioning as it's supposed to. And because in this case, it's not leaking. So in some ways they're right, it's an issue. So, but if you can find the if you see it, so that's where having this is powerful, and gets the, what I love about this, and this is just me, I think, when I have buyers ask me about inspectors, I tell them, I've got some inspectors I use. I got a guy that's a one-man show, and I really like him, really personal, does a really good job. And there are also, there's an inspection company I like. They've got multiple inspections, but every one of them's done the same way, and they follow a system, and they do it the same way every time. Well, that's what this is. If you're really going through this with your buyers every time in every house, you're doing it the same every time you go through that house, and it can be powerful. So, that's what I do like about it. It also is going to depend on your buyer. Again, your buyer that, it takes a long time to go through the house, they're probably gonna love that. For me, if you gave me one of these at every showing, and you're showing me houses, that's going to collect dirt. I mean, it's going to just get thrown in the back seat of my car. That's just who I am. And, so part of that's knowing your buyer. So when it comes to actually touring the home, ringing the doorbell, knocking, regardless of if no one's home or it's vacant or whatever, is always a good idea. You never know who might be in the home, whether it's somebody that's not supposed to be there or somebody that didn't get the message that there was a showing, or two somebodies. You never know what they might be doing. So it is I have not, but I've heard stories. Now, I have walked in on a house in Highlandville that we got there, and there's a bowl of cereal on the table, and then somebody was asleep in the bed, and there were gun shells on the front porch. So, I mean, we decided to just shut the door and leave. We were done. We weren't, he didn't wake up, and so there's a lot, so it's important to do that and make sure you're doing it. Always, I do try, and if buyers ask questions or I've got comments or thoughts about the house, I try and write them, have a pen with me, write them down on my sheet if I've got it with me. I do love how they talk about, giving the homes names is one of the notes in there. So have the buyers give the homes names, like, oh, the one with the great view, or, whatever it is, that kind of like they do on, the HGTV. Be careful on, giving too many comments about the home, or your opinions about the home. And it's one thing that I've realized, like, I've had many buyers buy the house I never thought they would buy. And it is letting them decide what matters the most to them is what does it. And I'll share, so I have a unique experience when my wife and I bought our home in Ozark. We'd actually been looking for a long time. We lived in Nixa at the time. So we've been married, it'll be 19 years this year, but we spent 9 years in Nixa, and we've now been in Ozark 9 years. And our agent, we had actually had a family member that was an agent at one point. We were looking at houses in Nixa, and they got out of real estate, but we had made 5 or 6 full price offers. We were looking, that was a foreclosure time, so we were looking at some foreclosure homes, and we never got a house. And then we looked, and then we got to working with agent that we bought our house with, and we had made, I think, 3 or 4 full price offers or over list price, and we didn't get the house. And there is still a house in Ozark, it's close to the junior high, that I still want. We were second place. And we got called because it came back on the market because the basement flooded again, which we knew it had flooded before. You could tell that. And I'd had a contractor go with me, and it looked like the water main had been replaced, a split level home. And so, hey, that's probably why it leaked. Well, when it happened the second time, it had, we were being, was a heavy rainy spring. And, so there was obviously water seeping in from somewhere. And I wanted to go back and look at the house, and 2 new houses had come on the market. I wanted to go back and look at this house because I wanted this house. I was so excited about this house. It has still got the side entry garage that I love. I love side entry garages. And I do at times tell buyers that because that's something that I love. It's just, I like it. It had a hole about this big in the crawl space where water had come through and gone down into the, into the basement, which is again why I couldn't fix that. Not for what they could sell it for me for, not for what my loan could support, because I could I could roll in repairs, and I was doing some other things, but I just couldn't buy it cheap enough, and because I just couldn't make it, wasn't going to work, so we were out. We went down to a house then. There were 2 houses side by side. Builder had built them on a Fairwind is where it was in Ozark. And it was south behind Murfin's. And they were brand new construction homes, unfinished basements, 99,149 is what they were listed at. And, I was like, I go, they're nice. And as we're pulling up, we come down the hill, go across a pond, and the house is on top of a hill about like that. And one of the things I told you guys earlier, I like my family. I also love playing with my kids. I would play soccer in the backyard. Just spending time outside with my kids and getting involved. It's something I've always done. And I'm truthfully my wife's bonus kid. And we got there and I was like, this sucks. And as we're driving up, my wife goes, why are we even looking at these? That was the comment. She goes, this isn't going to work. We got there, walked around the house. It was pretty steep, but it did level off a little bit at the bottom of it. And we ended up buying the house. Now, if you had asked me what was important to me, I would have told you that I would have never bought that house. We loved it while we lived there too, and it was great. And I'll tell you, in the winter, it was phenomenal. I built a deck off the back, and yeah, we went sledding and had a fire pit going right there. And then you walked right in the house. You didn't get all cold. We don't get snow anymore, so that doesn't matter. But so that's our, that's my buying story. And so that's one of the things that I have and I can share some of that. And so even in today's market, when we're looking at a lot of houses, I'm like, you're losing out on houses. I've been there. It sucks as a buyer. It is. Space and price and potential, really is what it was. It was so having, we wanted that bonus space of the basement, and so we bought it. The price we bought it at and finished the basement, within a couple of months, and so we had it. It's really what boiled down to it, and. I don't know. In that case, I actually found it before she did. So I would think probably because she knew that she probably didn't know about the hill. We didn't talk about the hill. That was more my wife and I. Yeah, that was probably not something we shared that was really was a deal breaker because we were looking for the right the right house. So we probably that she probably would have, and being brand new, because we've been looking at older stuff similar price that was foreclosures, so she probably would have thought this. I mean, in my mind, if I saw it and had a buyer like me, I would be on the phone and be like, we need to go see this right now, type of a thing. Yep, I get it. No, that's a very good question. So and so one thing is talking about some of the benefits of the house and instead of just the features, because you can when you're buying $150,000 house, and if granite's what you're worried about, granite's expensive, but it's $2,500, or whatever it is. So what makes the house make the most sense? I'm a big believer in living where you live, is kind of a thing, that makes the most sense to me. And that's just kind of, what about the house makes your life better? What do you really love about it? And, like new windows, you'll have lower utility bills, are kind of some of the benefits that you could talk about. It's got brand new floors, so you don't got to worry about pet allergies, if that's something that's a concern. So, and then I want to see if I can go here, because leaving the home as you found it. Be mindful of pets. My biggest fears in showing homes: letting a pet out of the house and leaving the house unlocked. It's just wouldn't be good. So I don't ever, I just wanted to kind of go through some of the things there from a etiquette. It says to leave the home as you found it. That's lights on or whatever, however that is. I never shut off lamps. I don't want to break a lamp. I will at times shut off lights. That's depends on the situation. If I know it's being shown, again, obviously I'm not going to touch the lights. And in today's world, that's different because a lot of times they don't want you to. But there are times I will shut off. I used to always shut off the lights, especially the main lights, so they knew I had been there. If the seller's driving by, they could see that the house looked different. Make sure you leave a card. So I talked about we're always helping them make a decision. So I do. One of the things that I've always done, and this actually came from Jen Davis, is where I got how I do it, and I share you how I do it. She had shared a story in maybe the same exact class. She had her, this was the house, and we looked at it, and it was basically like, you want to make an offer on this house? And they said no. She crumpled up the listing sheet and tossed it in the back seat or whatever, however she handled that, or she probably just folded it in half and said, okay, we don't got to worry about this house anymore. I don't, I do something, I'll do that sometimes if I've got it. I'll fold it in half and kind of, say we're done with it. But what I do is just being my personality. I asked them, I said, especially when we get to the second, like if we've looked at more than one house, even if it's been in today's market, I did it last week and we hadn't looked at a house for 2 weeks. And I said, all right, even though that other house is under contract now, if you had to choose between this house and that house, which one would you pick? And they said, that house. And I was like, all right, we're done. We don't got to talk about this house anymore because it doesn't matter. And that's just one of those things that I do. And a lot of times I'll be like, it's better when you've looked at 2 houses on the same day. I'm like, all right. And this is kind of where my cheesy personality comes in, but I'm like, okay, we're on HGTV and, we're making this up now. I'm not telling you have to make an offer right now, but let's just kind of pretend we're there. And if we had to pick one of these 2 houses to buy, which one would it be? And if they tell me the other house, or it doesn't matter which house they say, I'm like, great, well, that's the only house we'll worry about now. And so I'm continually narrowing houses down as we go until they're ready to make a decision. Because if it's the house in 3rd position, does it really have a chance? No. So there's no real reason to. That may be worth noting if, in case stuff in today's world, if it goes under contract. But ultimately, we're just trying to, again, I'm not trying to create a problem for them. I'm not trying to make them make an offer, when they're, as far when they're ready to. Yeah, tell them to get a divorce. Just kidding. Yeah, my belief is sell the house and no, I'm just kidding. So I think that's where you have to let them talk it out and let them deal with it. And I stay as far away from that as I can. I don't get involved. I really don't. And that's usually when they're doing it. I'm be like, you guys probably ought to, spend some time talking about that. And you guys let me know if you got any questions. And just kind of dismiss it and let them deal with it because that's right. That's right. So yeah. Now, sometimes I will get involved in that as a instigator. It depends on my relationship with my clients because I do have fun when I'm doing it, and I'm gonna, I'll keep it real, and that's just that's part of who I am. And there are people that that's why I said you got to make things your way because some things that I do wouldn't come off right. Whether it's open houses, I've said to people walking in, and I'm like, hey, are you we introduce and whatever, and they say something like, so are you there are only 3 people that come to an open house. You've either got people that are in the market to buy, people that are just out looking, or the nosy neighbor. Which one are you? But if you don't, that doesn't come off well. It could it could go real bad. And so in today's, so a couple of, I don't know where it gets to it, but some of this gets so some stuff I think is important to share. So there are obviously sometimes buyers like, if I haven't seen enough properties yet to know if it's the one, to know that is hard, and especially in today's market. And I don't want to pretend like I have the answer there. They got to be ready to make a decision. And if I do had a sign that used to hang over my desk that said, the house that you want to sleep on tonight, and think about, somebody saw yesterday, thought about last night, and is making an offer today. And that's never more real than in today's market. I think that's where the buyer consultation, when you find the buyer and setting up that expectation, is important, so that they know kind of what they're gonna deal with, and know that, if they don't make a decision, they've gotta move on. The sometimes that pressure is built in, and we don't have to worry about it. A house comes on the market. I had a listing on Deborah this spring, or not spring, late summer, early fall, like August. And I had over 20 agents that hit the lockbox on the first day. And when I went out there, because my lockbox was acting weird, there was an agent in the house that never hit the lockbox. So you don't know how many people had gone in and out, and I'm a big believer in I like to, I think you hit the lockbox, but, I get why you don't. But the seller had gone by the house to get his trailer, and the house was vacant. So, and he chose not to get it because there were like 9 people waiting in the front yard. So if you're in that situation, your buyers know we either need to make an offer or we don't. I also will share, it's the one time, if your buyers want to make an offer, make the offer, and the reason I encourage you, all that activity, I got one offer. You can't tell me that somebody else didn't want to make an offer. Yeah. Now, the offer we got, we talked about it when we got it right away, and it was a strong offer, and it was not over list, but the goals for the seller weren't for the highest dollar offer necessarily. This one was the most certainty was very high certainty to close. It was a cash offer. But for the seller, somebody could have made, who knows, but we had discussed it probably would have had to been a minimum of probably $5,000 over list before he would have probably not taken the offer that he did. But it was a moment when I said, in this market that we're in, sometimes just getting that offer on paper is important, because you never know where they're gonna, where someone's gonna end up, and what they're gonna, what they're gonna want to do, and what the goal is for that, for that seller, because you never know what that offer is, that was on paper, had been submitted. Now sometimes it's hard because your buyers, when they lose a house, it's devastating. But I don't know, just encourage you, just one of those moments, now if you call the listing agent, or maybe you have the conversation with the listing agent, and they're like, yeah, we've got 14 offers. Maybe at that point, you're not going to get there. And there was, I'm trying to remember the details. Anyways, I made an offer that was a strong offer, but not one. I knew they had multiple offers, and I actually wasn't excited about writing. And we were actually we were in the top 3. And she called me, and she liked what we were offering, and she goes, if you'll go to this, you got it. And I didn't, my buyers didn't want to do it, so we lost it. But, it was only, I think we had offered, but we had some concessions, and they wanted to net that number, so. Gotcha. What is it over? What, one? Okay. Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah.
the multiple offer situation. And I'm
Are you talking about for the buyer or for the seller?
yeah,
Man,
on the buyer's side, I feel like I'm
yeah.
comfortable with that side.
So the seller side, it depends. And this is where really knowing your buyer, yourself. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Question was how handling multiple offer situation for a seller in the market that we're in. It depends, and I say that from it depends on what the offer, what the offer you have in hand is, what they are, and also what the goals are for your client, because ultimately that's who I'm helping. So we've had some multiple, so my most recent one with multiple offers was probably my most unique and challenging one. I had 3 offers that literally were splitting hairs. They were all within $1,000 of each other. One was a cash transaction, but wanted rights of inspections, no appraisal. One wanted an inspection, or no, one had gone back out and they did their inspection. They're buying it as is, but had an appraisal. And one was it was third place. I can't really remember it. So we were kind of deciding between those two. Now, my advice would have been to go and give me best and final offer, but everyone knew we had multiple offers. So if they wanted to adjust the offer, they could have. And my clients were, they had a contingency offer on a house. And so for them, it was just about getting the house under contract and which one was the most sure to close. And so what offer do you think we took? Right. Yeah. They were, everything was either cash or conventional. So yeah, we were fortunate. Cash with inspection, or conventional with appraisal but no inspection. Right. I probably, yeah, I probably agree with you. But we went with they went with the conventional loan with the with the appraisal. But right, and really, so the reason that choice was made is they saw it. The appraisal was the least of our concerns with the house, because it didn't sell crazy over list price, or maybe it was, maybe that offer was the, anyways, it may have been 1,000 over list, but anyways, it was right around list. And just wouldn't, wasn't worth, that's how they saw it, and they had, there were some, I mean, it was an older home, and some concerns, but so to say there's yeah, no inspection is huge, and especially in that, because it could have, there was a kind of a weird, it's got a well and septic and older roof. I mean, there's some things. So that's what they went with. So typically I will get the offers, we'll kind of review them, and if there's one that perfectly fits what the seller needs, we're gonna take it. If they're kind of offers are all over the place or whatever else, we're probably in the best case. I like to do the best and final. You just, the only time I'm cautious on that is when for me, is if you've got an offer that really is what they want, and maybe the best offer right then, and you don't want to lose that one. Yeah. Yeah. is when I get into multiple offers, I always make sure everyone knows we're into multiple offers before, I mean, even if we don't do a best and final, but I just, we've got multiple offers because I've had some of that where I didn't. I've had that where we made an offer and we knew it wasn't the best offer, but there were no other offers on the table. And then an agent told me, "Oh, we may get another one. We don't know." And but then I never got the opportunity to adjust it for the buyer. And I don't know if the buyer would have, because, in that case. But that's it's always harder. But oh yeah. Yes. So again, will depend a little bit on what the buyer's got going on, but and Eric Jackson's right. It is it's becoming more common where people are wanting longer to make a decision, um, to get those multiple offers and get to make a decision on that offer. For me, I always think about. I mean, if the house is occupied, I'm first thinking about that other person involved in the transaction. So I make it personal, and I ask that agent, when are they? Do they know where they're going? When are they closing on their new home? And how can we best accommodate that, especially if my clients have flexibility there? And this is where you have to know a little bit where your clients have the flexibility and where they don't. For example, a first-time home buyer that needs closing costs, there's not much you can change on that. You don't have flexibility in changing that number, but they may be renting, and I had a client that you know they could close whenever, it didn't matter, so they just wanted the house. So then I'm leaning on that. You can ask the whole title company question in case somebody's got a deep relationship with the title company or whatever else. I mean, those are easy questions to ask the seller. um, and then it's going to come back to my conversation with my buyers in multiple offer situation is, um, and obviously if the seller's agent will give me an information on where the offers are, that'd be great. But I then am frank with my clients and I tell them, if you're a cash buyer, you are the most attractive buyer there is. You're the prettiest girl at the party, and there's a you're going to get attention just being that. So we've got some flexibility there. Conventional is the next one, and then you've got your government, first time home buyer loans, or whatever, FHA to VA to USDA, and it certainly depends on the situation and what's going on, because you walk into a house and it's got they've got Marines, things up on the wall, and you're a VA loan, maybe you've got a benefit, and that may be where you write a love letter, that kind of talks. I mean, utilize your advantages. You never know how with the letter how that's going to go. If a so But I sit with my clients. I kind of explain to them where they really sit, at the table. If any of these others come in, where they may sit from that side, and that is outside of price and other conditions. Do they have the ability or want to waive inspections? I haven't waived inspections in a multiple offer situation. I'm not a big my big stance is buyers deserve to be represented, and there are times if we're waiving inspections all the time, is that really the best situation? And it depends on the buyer again. For the most part, if they have you take a it doesn't matter, but you take someone with no construction knowledge, no knowledge of a house at all, and they're doing that's a little scary. I tell my buyers, though, I'm like, all right, there's multiple offers. Nothing I can tell you matters. That may sound bad, right? But I say you make the offer where if somebody paid $100 more or $1,000 more, you're okay with it. Right, right. And if you found out you didn't get it and that's what it sold for, you're going to be upset. And that has been my most effective thing. One, my buyers owning their offer and not being upset when they don't get it. I have so I had a buyer that I can't remember what the number was. They were putting down quite a bit of money, and they put like $15,000 or $20,000 in earnest money, trying to show that how interested they were. We have, and part of that came from an idea. There's an old investor that started this, but one of the investors we use, or that uses us anyways, they make their offer and send a check for the entire purchase price as earnest money. So knowing that it is sitting at the title company and ready to close whenever you are. And no, they write, like if it was the one of them I did was what is $60,000 house, and they wrote offer $60,000 and $60,000 in earnest money. Done deal. Yeah. So I mean, it's yeah. You just look at think about how I'm not a big believer in earnest money in the first place, and that's if I tell my clients this, I rarely put earnest money in the first offer if we're not in a multiple offer situation. I may ask a seller's agent if earnest money is important to the sellers or to them, because to me, 99% of the time, earnest money goes back to the buyer, so it doesn't have the value it had, in the generation prior to us. It doesn't mean as much as what it used to. It is a commitment to the property. There's a psychological commitment and thing from that side, but with all the inspection and financing contingencies that are involved, it rarely gets back. And that's where even I wrote an offer that was a contingency offer, and they wanted $5,000 earnest money. And I'm like, really? Like, it's skin in the game, yeah. But it was just funny that I was like, our house isn't even on the market yet, and you're worried about that? Like, you're the one that said you're going to continue to show it, so you're the one not committed to us, not the other way around. If they on a contingency, you can. Yeah, contingency offer. Yep. Yeah, yeah, contingency to sell. Not contingency to close. We're getting into that multiple offer. The multiple offers, but because that's a huge part of where we're at. It's hard to not be right now, and that's driving our market. And is where, so I spoke to the Ozark Chamber of Commerce in September, and I shared numbers with how much the market had increased. But with the way interest rates have dropped, the buying power was actually greater in September of 2020 than it was in September of 2019. And substantially, me personally, I bought a house in September 2018 with where interest rates were. I actually refinanced September this last year with where interest rates were and the equity I had gained in those 2 years. I could have bought a home $80,000 to $100,000 more and kept my payment the same. And that was that just to give you guys when I was looking at those numbers personally, it blew me away. So even though prices have kind of gone out of whack, or it feels like it, the affordability is still there with interest rates as low as they are. So it's still a good time. And my whole thing was basically, so it's a great time to sell, and it's still a good time to buy. The best time to buy a house is 30 years ago. Second best times today. So I don't know anything that I mean, really, we'll just open it up to questions, I think. What other questions or ahas do you have? Yeah. I mean, I guess you could. I have, I've never seen it done. You know, oh, sorry. The question was, could you write in the special, in the special agreements that, you know, if you accepted a contingency, to sell, could you write in there that the house could no longer be shown? And really, I mean, I guess you could, but if it's going to be active with contingency online, you know, that's typically you know, you're still allowing showings. So, right. I mean, the only other way you could do it is if you could get the seller to agree to mark it as pending, even though if it was a contingency. And I mean, I don't think I would never do that to a seller. You know, I can't imagine doing that. So.
I love to get creative.
Right. Yeah. That makes. Yeah. So yeah. On the flip side of that, I have when an offer was, I was representing the buyer and it was a contingency offer. We reduced the kick-out clause to 12 hours and kept the house as pending, or kept the house as active. You know, we got it agreed to that. So, and we ended up getting an offer at 8. I felt bad for the buyers. We got an offer like at 8:00 at night. How do you do that? How does that work? It was not fair to the buyer, you know, but they can't, you know, it's just a 12-hour kick-out clause. You know. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So they can, of course, and that's something to know for buyers. It's scary to have your buyers sign a kickout clause. So when you get delivered the kickout clause, if you read that, you no longer can default on the sale due to your house not closing. So yeah, it gets, well, if you can even qualify on a contingency. Yeah. Oh, you mentioned about buyer portal. Is that through Flex or something different? Through Flex. Utilize setting that up, and on the screen, if you do, and just I won't do a full Flex class on setting it up, but you do under contact management, you can hit add a contact, and then you can create a search for them and save it, and save a subscription to be able to send them. And I'll show anyone that wants to, but I won't. That needs it. Yes. Yes. Yep. Yep, we do. All right. You're welcome. Thank you. If you guys need anything, let me know. Oh, thanks. You're welcome. Absolutely.